Hey, Apex, it's Andre. Thank you for everyone for hanging out with me these last couple weeks. Just a reminder, I'm going to do these every Thursday at 5:30 until the 30th because I want to. It's kind of impossible to meet everybody, so I want to at least open up my office and give people an opportunity to eat dinner and relax and ask me questions. So um, we typically get questions to like they people send them to us through email, but we have some people that have joined us tonight. So as you have questions, let them run. I'm interested to hear more from you and do less talking. One question that we've received is, have you attended all the forums you planned? If so, what are your takeaways? I have. Last night I was did the Apex Chamber of Commerce candidate forum. It was real fun. Um, a lot, a lot of fun. The one key takeaway I'll say is, well, there's multiple, and I'm going to try to I'll try to basically make this as succinct as possible. Is most of the candidates we all agree on the same thing, and I keep telling people what's going to really separate us isn't the things that we want to accomplish for the town; it's execution. I'm not into campaign promises. I'm more into commitments and doing the things I say I'm going to do, and or the things I believe are the guiding principles. So it's difficult to commit to something if you don't have all the data and you don't know what all the moving pieces are. But if I have a principle of sustainable growth, and that means that there's housing for young people, young families, and older people, and they don't have to leave Apex because of affordability, I'm going to commit to that and make sure that I do things that support that. So that's a great question. I really appreciate it. The forums are fun. I've enjoyed meeting the other candidates, and I hope them all the best, one way or the other. Right? There's only two possible outcomes, and I'm okay with that, and I've accepted that. So, great question. Another question that came in is, what makes you different from other candidates? It's execution. I think part of the my frustration with politics is that people pander. They like to tell you what they believe you want to hear, and I try not to do that. I just I don't operate that way. Um, there was a question asked in one forum by outgoing councilwoman Killingsworth, if you had $500,000 added to the budget and you had to cut something, what would you add and what would you cut? I really couldn't answer that question because like a cut means something's affected and the term of that effect we can't predict. And I think investment should be used wisely. Maybe it's to improve a current initiative as opposed to building something new. You just have short term funding. So I don't operate in hypotheticals. It's kind of hard for me to do that. I like to have as much uh, data and facts available to make a decision. It doesn't. I don't get into analysis paralysis, but I want to feel confident about the direction that I move in when I have to make decisions that are going to affect other people. So, great question. Again, what separates me is it's merely execution and commitment to the principles that I believe in. Let me also add, you keep using the word principles. Every year I try to improve Andre um, because I can't assume that everybody is wrong. Sometimes it's me. And one example I'll use is this year, one of my uh, things I want to improve is separating honesty and truth. Honesty is subjective, right? People can honestly believe terrible things. An extreme example would be people can honestly believe that racist tendencies make sense. Well, truth is immutable, it doesn't change. It's like the law of gravity. What goes up must come down, right? Um, so I've been trying to have more truthful conversations and accepting what that looks like, uh, because I think it's important. So for me, it, principles are the same thing. You can, there's the fabled honor amongst thieves. Well, thieves are inherently bad. Well, not inherently, but their actions and behaviors are bad. So they have that value of honor amongst thieves. Well, the principle is that they're going against is theft is bad. So I like to lean more towards principles, things that are unwavering, service, uh, community. It benefits a lot of people to help others who are in need. So I try to lean more towards principles, things that are going to be longstanding, as opposed to the buzzword of the month or the year. So that's one distinction. It could be semantics, sure, uh, but I would argue that values may not always have a positive effect, while principles, like solid principles, are probably provide a better outcome. So just wanted to clear that up. I have two of my sons that will say, "Dad, you're talking philosophy, and we know you don't like philosophy," and they would be right, but it's important to me. Another question that came in: I noticed you commented on Sue Moo's post. What was your motivation? Well, it goes back to commitment, right? In a previous Ask Me Anything, I mentioned that I thought the racism that I'd seen in the comments were bad, and just, if you see something, you should say something about it. And so I saw it and I said something about it, because I think the point that should not be missed is that 8 of us, and I understand that there's a write-in, are doing something that at some level is courageous, and they're putting themselves out there. I told somebody last night that I'm an introvert. I do not like to seek attention for myself. I like to do my mission, do my job, do the objective, and make sure it's done well and there's benefits for others. So I committed to doing something in public, and I have to follow through. I just can't say, well, not this time, but next time. And Sue is a nice lady. I've spoken to her several times. That I actually told her, don't engage in the comments, but she did, um, because social media is not real life. It's just not. It's a great way to reach a lot of people, but don't go looking in the comments for like uh, support a lot of the times. Reddit's gotten real bad, and I see a lot of the negative comments. I just I find that disturbing. Um, so hopefully that answers your question. And before the next question, I do want to touch on this a little bit. I am not a big social media guy. I just don't see a lot of positive interactions for the most part, and um, it's especially in this political arena, it's very divisive, and I don't understand what people hope to gain out of that. And you may say, well, it's the Republicans and not the Democrats, or vice versa. I think it's both. Um, the Apex Reddit is very clicky, and I don't think that it's open to ideas. Facebook is no different. People pick teams and they pick sides. I appreciate that, but it's not productive. Um, to tear somebody down without trying to actually have a dialogue. It's just a bunch of one-way conversations, clipped to 140 or 240 characters, or spending the time to uh, just, not or to get other people not to like somebody. It's very high school, and I don't buy into that. I think it's pretty sad. So I try not to, I try not to go into the comments unless it's something that it's productive. Other than that, I just kind of skip past it. And I hope that, I know there's some, uh, how do I say this without getting into the fray? The people that support these communities should do a better job of making sure that it's respectful. Um, if not, then they're part of the problem. So it doesn't mean you can't disagree with others or you shouldn't voice your opinion, but I think that way we should do that should at the minimum be respectful. We may not always agree, and that is perfectly okay, but we should find a way and not look for like politicians or celebrities for, the guidance here. We control that. We can control if we're respectful to other people. Um, so for me, what's important for me is that I stand by the things I commit to in public. I think that people being disrespectful it's just weird, man. So um, yeah, social media, it could be cool, but it's not. Videos. Well, okay. I know you've made videos about the Wake County Democrats. What do you think about the latest? And I think the person meant the latest email. Let me open my email and find it and tell you what I think about it. Okay. So I'm not going to make a video because I don't think they get it. And I did speak to two candidates about this, and I still feel the same way. National politics are national politics, and it's a different conversation, which requires different tactics. We're talking about Apex, North Carolina. This is a municipal election, and this is a predominantly uh, quote unquote blue town, right? Well, this is the email, and they actually refer to which is ironic because I posted my comment on Sue, and then I got this email. It was referring to what happened to Sue Mu. Somebody asked if she's a U.S. citizen. They call out specifically. This is after a comment appeared on endorsed Republican candidate Mary Miskimen's social media posts. Somebody saying, "Oh, we're going to make this Trump land," blah blah blah. She didn't denounce it. She didn't delete it. Whatever. Bold. This is the kind of extremism that is lurking in Apex, and we can't let their candidates win. Sure, okay. And the part that continues to bother me is this. In this email, it says, it's up to us to let them know the only choice is voting for Ed, Sue, and Shane. Okay. I get it. You're obviously on a team, but the implied statement of all the other candidates are for ICE raids. All the other candidates are for the idiocracy of this current administration is a falsehood. It's not true. Here's the thing. In case Jen, I believe her name is Jen, the Apex Wake County Democrat Party vice chair, is just willy-nilly sending emails without looking at the other candidates, I think she's not reading the room. There's an Indian candidate that she's including in this who may be a Republican. I believe he's a Republican. There is TJ, who's an independent, who is biracial. There's Chiron, who is African or is black also. and I'm black. Okay. So you're telling me that three other non-white candidates are pro ICE raids. Okay. Well, here's the other part that Jen doesn't know. My wife is an immigrant. My daughter-in-law is an immigrant. I have nieces and nephews of different nationalities, whether that be um, Hispanic, whether that be like Asian. Like, who are you talking to? Who are you sending this email to? It's very insulting. It it the pandering is the stupidity, which I don't respect. I was reading something today, and the approval rate for Democrats is 34%. And it's probably that. It's because they pander. They're just as in some aspects they are just as like ineffective as the Republicans. That's why I'm an independent. Um, I don't understand this. I just don't get the point of sending these emails out. You don't know who you're sending the emails out to. You don't do your homework. You just kind of say, well, we need Sue, Shane, and Ed because they're going to stop it. I don't believe that. It's insulting. Um, the only choice it's up to us to let them know that the only choice is voting for Ed, Sue, and Shane. Yeah. To be fair, the only team my Yankees are out of the the pennant chase. So, I don't know how the Knicks are going to be this year. The Broncos beat the Eagles, so those are the teams I support, and because it's all fun and games, it's sports. But to send this type of email to people and be serious, it's very unserious. It's the pandering. It's the equivalent to Nancy Pelosi and the Black Democratic Caucus wearing kente cloths and kneeling in the halls of Congress after George Floyd died. It's pandering. I didn't take them seriously then. I don't take them seriously now. So at the national level, they're failing the people of this country. And at the local level, they're trying to duplicate the same recipe. I have nothing against Democrats. I'm just saying that if this is how they think they're going to help people, they're not helping people. And they're actually insulting the people they want to vote for them. So I don't like it. I'm not going to make another video. I don't think they get it. I don't think they care. And that's why I'm an independent. So it's really disappointing. But that's what we get. And I want to be clear. I don't hold that against the. I don't hold the candidates to the unless they say something, or unless they see it and they think it's going to help them win. And if that's how they have to win, then that's pretty sad. It's just it's disappointing. Okay, I really did say ask me anything. that one kind of frustrates me. I'm just kind of disheartened by by Democrats. But I'll just I will say that although we may agree on a lot of things, how we go about them and how we get people to support ideas it's clearly different. I don't have anything bad to say about my fellow candidates. I would never send. First of all, I wouldn't send an email like that. But yeah, whatever. All right. Another question that came in. With a few weeks to go until Election Day, how can you separate yourselves from other candidates? That is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make myself accessible to as many people as possible. I really firmly believe that part of the issue we have in politics at every level is that you see candidates when they're trying to get elected or reelected, and then you don't hear from them for 2 or 4 years. My wife and I actually count down to the next congressional cycle, and it's normally like very depressing because you get flooded with stuff. Um, I think what I want to do is make sure that I get to meet as many people as possible, and just really listen to them. Um, as I'd say often, I'm not trying to convince you, but what I will challenge us to do is to um, reframe the conversations and the expectations that we have for the people that represent us. The status quo is kind of lame. We need to, we are going to be able to fix it, as opposed to looking um, to struggling or failed leadership to fix that for us. Um, the system has got issues. I don't want to paint with such a broad stroke that I vilify people, but I will say that the cracks in the armor are pretty apparent. Um, at a national level, we're living through it. As I look at some of the discourse in this local election, it's starting to seep in. So I would ask that, you know, we just be open to different ideas and perspectives. I'm going to do my best to reach out to as many people as possible, let them know that I'm listening and I'm going to make myself accessible, and to really be a good servant leader, right? It's taking the ideas, thoughts, fears, hopes, dreams that people envision for the town and figuring out ways to make those work practically and long term get those results. I'm um, and I'm just going to do my best to be me. And like one of the things I'm key on is like execution. You have to be able to execute. Um, it's not just about talking about the things that could improve somebody's life. It's getting the right things, understanding the need that's most important that can be executed on and done, and continuously challenging ourselves to improve. Um, so I just want to emphasize that it's about listening, really listening and understanding what people are saying and asking for. And then secondly, it's about the execution. Once you understand what people are asking you, you've got to be able to execute. So that's how I hopefully can and you know separate myself from my colleagues. It's a great question. If elected, will you continue to do these types of live streams? Yes. Um, I will do my best to make sure that as many people as are willing can come. I know that Terry Mahaffey does office hours, but I also know that some people are eating dinner or they're spending time with their family. They probably won't be able to make it. So I think office hours are just as good as these. So I may kind of switch it up. So that's why I kind of stuttered a little bit or stalled. I think I want to make sure I meet people where they're at. If more people feel comfortable meeting in person, sure, then let's do it in person. Um, so I know that that question came from email, and I know that people have been asking like, how do you know, how often you're going to do these? I'll keep doing them, like, and I'll meet people where they're at. Um, yeah, I want to make sure I get as much feedback as possible. I'll tell you on a personal note, I remember my first real professional performance review. Um, I was super critical of myself, and the person that was my manager at the time was like, well, it's good that you're open to feedback and to, you know, improving yourself, but stop being so hard. And ever since then, I've always been like, yeah, feedback is not a bad thing. And you also have to, you know, continue to grow and foster what works well. So this is something I think works well. We get a lot of questions through email. And I think that's kind of cool. So yeah. This person must have been at the forum last night. You don't seem to rely on notes when answering questions. Have you memorized all your answers? No, I have not. Um, I I think here's my cheat sheet though. Uh, in a previous Ask Me Anything, uh, I mentioned how I have a simple goal in life to be a great husband, a great father, and a good friend and brother. And I look at um, the questions that I'm asked are measured against how does that support sustainable growth for young people and older people, um, connected community, and that and the basis of that is communication, and is that going to support that, and leadership. So when I hear a question, I kind of balance that question based on my three principles. Um, it's a cheat sheet, so I don't have to uh, think about or memorize answers, or the questions are going to fall within a bucket. Most often than not, you can basically you can associate those things to the question. So that's kind of why it's easy for me to, because I believe in my principles and I believe in what I'm saying. So yeah, I don't have to memorize them. Um, it drives people that know me crazy that I I'm often equipped to answer a question, and there's times where I say I don't know. I don't know enough about that. But generally, especially in this race, a lot of things fall and they get measured against my three principles. I state them out. They're on my website in the order that they are, with the words that are there, because that's what I believe. It's nothing complicated. I am not super smart. Uh, I'm very practical and very pragmatic. I try to stay in my lane, and I try to. There was a book I read years ago. Now discover your strengths. I try to lean into the things I'm good at, and I'm analytical. I'm logical by default, um, and when I do best when I'm able to associate things to the why, my personal whys. I would do it or not do it. So yeah, that's why. That's why I don't need notes. Fun fact, I've been to quite a bit of forums, and I've talked to a lot of people, which is amazing. And I really try my best to make sure I'm understanding the question and listening to other people, because as I said before, like a couple of candidates have mentioned things that are no longer things I have to deal with, like childcare and mental health care for the youth. My kids are gone, so just like the association that we have in our personal lives, I can respect that, and I do believe things like that are well worth it to consider. That's what leadership is, where you try not to put yourselves in the other person's shoes, but you lean on your own lived experience and your understanding of what they're stating to you to come up with a better result, or to accomplish something, or to say that that won't work. So, it's very important that, whatever we do November 4th, that we expect that people are listening to us and they understand what we're saying, and that they lean to their personal and lived experience, but they put their bias away to help us to get a better result. I think that's something I would like to see, regardless of the outcome of this election. Also, want to say, yeah, we get a lot of. I have a team that actually we get a good handful of questions via email, and their task is to sort them all. So I want to say I appreciate all the hard work that they're doing to help me to look cool. Have you received any feedback from voters? Yeah. Yes, I have. Um, I'll generalize it. People enjoy what I'm saying, and I always remind myself that um, don't believe your own press, because I want to make sure that I'm doing the best I can do, and I'm always listening. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the positive feedback. I haven't gotten a lot of constructive feedback. I mean, like or negative, what some people would call negative feedback. Um, so I really do. I've had a good time doing this. I've had a great time meeting new people. Although I am an introvert, I do like to talk to people and understand things I don't know or what their experiences are. Um, it helps me to learn and be a better person. Uh, like outside of this, I was speaking to somebody the other day that lives in Raleigh, and their big concern is, it's a very interesting way of looking at it. So they have a concern that we're building so many apartments, and people that rent are able to vote on property bonds. And my initial thought was the owner of the land, well, they pay the property taxes, but then they also get a tax break typically for like 5 to 10 years for the development because of the increased tax revenue, whether that be sales tax generally. But it was an interesting way of looking at their resistance for renters to be able to vote on bonds that affect or property taxes could be impacted. That is a perspective I never really looked at uh, because I never considered it. But this person also has lived in the area for like their entire life, and they've been negatively impacted by that scenario. So for me, it was eye opening to, like, it's always good to get and consider new information. How many other people feel like that? I don't know. I don't, I especially haven't heard that concern in Apex. So, but I know in Raleigh, that is an actual concern that some people have where, uh, because it's obviously larger than Apex, but there's so many, they actually have a lot of more bonds being voted on than we do too. So it probably is a more frequent occurrence. So I think that's something that we should, again, consider the information. What does that look like? Does that impact Apex, or will that in the future? I don't know. But uh, if I didn't have that conversation, I would have never had the desire to challenge my own opinion on that. And I'm a firm believer. Like, I'm not married to my ideas. I'm married to my wife. You may not convince me to change the core of what I believe, but I do think that what people give you is something to build upon. Now, it may not always be the case, but I found that more often than not, when people share their opinion about something, there's a good reason for that, and you should consider it. And I want to make sure I say this before the next question comes in. Um, I've enjoyed all the forums. They've all been cool. So I don't have a list in front of me of all the ones I went to, but I really, really enjoyed all of them. Next question is, why are you running as an independent? Um, because I'm not partisan. Um, my life is not partisan. I I think I have although it's a national issue, I'll tell you one of the core reasons why. Um, I don't believe in the direction the National Democrat Party's going, and I probably haven't for a while. Um, and I think the argument that you should vote Democrat because Trump is bad is not really a complete argument. I personally don't agree with the current administration, um, but I'm just kind of, I don't. I don't want to associate with something, even at a local level, that I just don't fundamentally agree with. I mentioned earlier about the pandering, and there have been many chances that for issues that we're talking about currently nationally. I don't want to make this a big focus, but whether that be immigration, healthcare, we take the bare minimum. Like women's health, we've taken the bare minimum, and they pandered so much that we've now lost some rights. And the Affordable Care Act is right now about to be impacted because of the shutdown in Congress. Um, we take, so I'll go back to women's health. The Democrats control the House and the Senate several times. When multiple candidates ran on that, they did nothing for it. Immigration, same thing. The bare minimum was DACA. The bare minimum for women's health was the Supreme Court won't change precedent. Well, here we are. I just can't support that. It doesn't mean that I believe in the extreme crazy stuff that's happening right now. I don't. I think that's abhorrent, but um, it kind of wore down on me. And the final thing for me, to be quite honest with you, was former President Biden said he was going to be a transitional president, and then he announced his candidacy. It just wasn't honorable. He didn't keep his word. So I think shortly thereafter, I changed I just became an independent. I think we should expect more from the people that are, leading our country. And I expect the same thing at the local level. If I wasn't an independent before, quite honestly, and this is not to throw anybody under the bus, but a few town council meetings ago, one of the outgoing council members basically said in public, "It's on YouTube, recorded. I'm not going to be here. It doesn't affect me." That was frustrating. It was unprofessional. It's kind of the reason why companies fire people when they give their 2 weeks notice, because you can't have that foot out the door and not do your job at 100%. I you know I don't like to I don't take that out of the wrong way. It's just my opinion. I think we should expect more out of the people that are taking these positions, that are looking for our confidence in them. And for someone to say that, who's sitting on town council with a smirk, was disappointing. And I don't have anything against the person. I just thought it was unprofessional. So um, it wasn't honorable. And I just kind of think that we shouldn't accept that. So, yeah, I'm just not really impressed with uh, partisan politics. I really firmly believe the leaders that will help us to fix some of the big pain points aren't going to be the people that are currently there. Um, I think they're so wrapped up into uh, their influence over others. And I don't call it power, because again, power is immutable, right? The sun is immutable. You can get voted out of office, so you have influence for a short term. You have no power. We can vote people out, right? So I kind of, I'm not impressed with um, the "we're better than the worst option" conversation, and I'm not seeing actual leadership from the people that are in these positions, or professionalism in some cases, from the local level to the national level. That's how I see it, and I try to stick to what I believe. And people haven't really convinced me otherwise. So that was a fun question. My favorite color is blue, and I don't like long walks on the beach. Do we have any more questions from email? And we try to answer them in order that we get them because, yeah, try to, play catch up too. What is something that has stood out to you during the campaign? Yeah, I think the overwhelming thing that has stood out to me is that a lot of the candidates, myself, we agree on a lot of things, and I think you can if you go to a job interview, you can over prepare and then you struggle through the interview. I think I tried to not do that as I started to go out and meet people because it's not healthy mentally. You just start to stumble. But generally, we all say the same thing. It's just how we package our words. And I don't speak politician or politicianese, if that's a word. I just made that up. Trademark Andre Powell. I speak to people like, if I invited you over for a meal, because it's important to not try to like impress people with your words and just be genuine. So I make sure that every time I see the other candidates, I greet them, and when we leave, I say bye to everybody. It's important because I don't want this to be. I want to be me. That's who I am personally. So I don't want to look at people as my opponent because they're not. Our ideas are the opponents. Us generally, not so much. Ed Gray's got the home court advantage. I mean, he's been in office for 4 years. So, I respect what he's done. He's not my opponent. And everybody else is just trying to represent themselves well. So whether we have slip ups or gaps or whatever, I still try to show respect. It's not as hard or as, it's not as bad as people think it is. It's time consuming, yes, but I think the biggest aha moment for me is that we say a lot of the same things. If you stripped all the things down and said, okay, what are they trying to accomplish? We're all trying to pretty much accomplish the same thing. That's why I keep stressing to people, I'm not trying to convince you. I think at the end of the day, at the very least, the people of Apex should reframe the conversations so people are listening, people are being heard, and we do the things that make sense for the town long term. So, yeah. It's interesting how many times that question comes up in different variations. One thing that I'll wait for the next question, but one thing I want to talk about, and I don't want to butcher his name, Idianat said something that there's the comment that comes up, and I'm sure you'll hear it, or you may see it in video or something. I didn't wait to start serving today. And I never really addressed that because I get the angle. I think more so, he said it the best. His kids are gone. So he actually, in his words, he's free. For me, it's a very similar aspect, careers and children going to college and whatever, and having the time to actually commit to something else is very important. My primary goals in life are father, husband, politics, service. I need to make sure that my role as a father is to make sure my children are contributing members of society. And if there are things I need to do to ensure that, then that is a priority over other people. And I'm very selfish in that aspect because my kids didn't ask to be here. So it's our responsibility to make sure that we give them the tools and resources to be successful. And when I felt the need, or when I felt that, I could step back from that, and our last one of 5 was on their way. Yeah, this is the perfect time. And I will be honest, my wife and daughter, and actually 2 of my sons, had encouraged me before, but the timing was off. So I just wanted to, not that it bothers me, but we've got to be clear in what we expect from people, like in certain roles. And I would rather have somebody that has their priorities straight and can really commit to doing something well than to somebody that's going to do a lot of things and let some of those things suffer. I heard years ago at a seminar, it was a conference, uh, a woman, it was a single woman, was the first uh, divisional president, no, first nat or U.S. president for the company I was working at, and a uh, and it was she was famously known at the time when she started her career as being a single mother. And another lady in the crowd asked her, and paraphrase, "Hey, I'm a single mother. I want to ask you, how did you balance career and family to get where you are?" And she was very, very truthful. She goes, "I did it. It's almost impossible. There are some times where my family suffered, sometimes where my career suffered, but I was able to offset the challenges and make it through. And it's a struggle. Um, and for my wife and I, my career was the priority for some time, and then at this stage in our lives, it's hers. So I took that feedback as, yeah, there's only so many things you can do at one time. Well, um, so I like to I like to live by things that made an impression, and that has always made an impression. I don't try to overextend myself to my capacity because I know what my real priorities are. So I can't pronounce his name. uh, Indian gentleman. uh, that was something I thought was very impactful, something that even in our personal lives we should understand that we want to make sure our priorities are right. I mean, I can talk for days. I can do this all day. Okay. If elected, what will you need to learn on the job? Uh, Probably a lot. Uh, I understand there'll be an orientation to understanding more of the intricate details of the workings of the town and staff. Pardon me. Um, and the second thing I would say is setting the foundation for relationships. In my prior career, and actually multiple times, the one of the things I found the most impactful when you're learning a new role is to understand who and what they do, right? Um, Spending time with them to understand like their actual functions, and learning as much as you can, so that way the interactions can be more productive. So I think those two things. The other things they're mechanical. They are the things. They are the processes. You can read manuals, blah blah blah. I think the orientation and understanding the bigger picture, and then secondly, what relationships can we establish? Those will be the two things that, and it also supports, you can't over prepare, right? You have to be able to like have a reasonable like objective to kind of learn the new role. And that's something over many years now, at the ripe young age of 49, I have valued. And some of the people I've consulted and coached over the years, I'm like, hey, you need to go back and like reestablish some relationships. The relationship is the problem. The job is going to take care of itself. The mechanical things, easy. The relationships, challenging. Um, and then that's so I don't want to have that obstacle, but I think the orientation of the organization in total is going to be key as well. I do spend time consulting, and that's the same pattern I would take with a new organization. That's the same pattern I take with new clients. Hey, tell me about your organization. Great. Tell me about your relationships. Fantastic. And with those two things, you can build and you can get success a lot quicker. So one thing that we do in our personal time is, I'm sorry, the question is, what are some of the things that you do in your personal time? One of the things that we do in our personal time is, well, a lot of our friends, September is a very expensive month because there's a lot of birthdays. Um, we spend a lot of time with our friends. We do some travel, and I like to dance, so I get to like dance a lot and eat. I really enjoy eating good food. So tonight I had spaghetti, and my wife does not really like marinara sauce. I was like, babe, it'd be really cool if I had spaghetti. I know you don't like it, but she makes the best meatballs. So yeah, so I like to eat and dance. We went to one of our friends' 50th birthday parties on last Saturday, and so I did a lot of dancing. I love to dance salsa. Um, yeah, so I just really love to dance. When we were younger, there were more nightclubs. There's no more of that, and we're getting older, so we don't do that. We try to go to concerts when we can. Um, my One of our sons lives in Orlando, and there's a lot of salsa concerts there, so it's cheap to fly to Florida. So when there's a cool one, we'll just go down to Florida for the weekend. You're like 8 minutes. I need uh, questions, or I can just talk. I can just freestyle. I think I'll do that, and I think we can pause in the emails because yeah, and maybe we'll, if we didn't get to some of them this week, I'll get to the rest of them next week. I just want to say, like, and I can't stress enough, I love Apex. After, like, on November 5th, I'm still going to live in Apex. I'm not moving, so that's like the secret. Um, and I hope that we can kind of, at the national level, they're like, bring the temperature down. Well, sometimes the temperature comes from the bottom up, right? And I kind of get a sense of that. We just have to be able to, and I'm not an idealistic type of person. I just think that in the right moments, we have to make better decisions. So what does that look like for Apex? I think, like, right now, with the Wake County Democrats sending inflammatory emails with some of the chatter on social media, we just have to do something different. Where it makes sense, we should say something. Um, or it doesn't, don't. But I think the expectation that we should have, again, high standards, reasonable expectations. At some point they meet, but most of the times the standards are here, expectations can be here. We just have to challenge ourselves to want, like, the um, the apex we all envision. But I think a challenge is we all don't know what that is, or we don't understand what our neighbors may be looking for. And I think that probably explains some of the things that are happening. And this is not the litmus test, but social media is an indicator of what may be happening. Um, we need to figure out a way to push back. I mean, I believe that most people are reasonable. And, if you look at the national level, it's like only 30 some odd percent, well, are in each party, each political party. So close to 40% each, right? Well, in the middle is like everybody else that may have tendencies to vote one way or the other. But just in simple math, plurality means that there's going to be differences. And we need to figure out a way to embrace those differences um, in a more constructive way. Um, I don't think that is missed on Apex, right? Um, I just hope, I really hope that we can get to a point where that's true. I know for me, I'm going to try to champion that and advocate for, hey, let's have the right conversation. I don't want to do the rhetoric. I don't want to do the pandering or the showboating. Like, none of that's necessary. What's the topic we're trying to discuss? And let's really talk about it. Um, it it's not that hard. It really isn't. I don't believe it is. And as I said before, most of the candidates are saying, we're saying there's 8 of us that typically say the same thing. It's the execution. And by execution, that could mean, how do we address a disagreement? How do we find consensus? How do we negotiate on to get terms that work the best for everybody? That level of execution has got to be at the forefront of any elected official. And it's not about, getting reelected because I checked the most boxes. We got to get beyond that, or we're going to be part of the problem that, or we're going to be part of um, the thing, part of the thing that people don't want to participate in. I'm always amazed that in other countries that the amount of people that vote, granted some of it's because of laws that they have in place, the amount of people that vote in election is like multitudes higher than like the United States. So that says there's something wrong with our systems. And if we need to get people engaged and wanting to do the thing. So yeah, that's just one of the things that I believe starts at the grassroots. I believe starts at the local level. And you can emulate that at the state level. You can emulate that at the national level. It just takes work. So yeah, and just for clarification, I say what I'm thinking because like a lot of times when I meet people, I'm often surprised that people are like, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. And so I try not to, I'm always open for clarification, but I always want to make sure that I'm being just as truthful as I possibly can. I think that's more important than saying things that people just kind of nod their head to. I found that most times people are nodding their head going, I don't believe that. So, and even being okay with saying, hey, so was I being clear? Because we often know when people don't understand what we're saying, but it's okay to ask for, for that feedback. So that's who I am. That's Andre Powell in a nutshell. I try my best to make sure that I'm accessible. I understand what people are saying before I jump in. I ask clarifying questions because I want to make sure I get it. And then I can articulate my point of view. Or if I don't have one, like, I really don't know. I don't have the answer to that question. I didn't know that, wasn't aware of that. Like to know more. Can you tell me more? That is a truthful conversation. It's not that you have to have the answer for everything. There's some things I don't know. There's a lot of things I don't know. My wife will tell you that. But I want to, my goal is to help as many people as possible in Apex. If I were to be elected, my goal is to be accessible. My goal is to be a model to fix housing. My goal is to make sure that we take that buzzword transparency and just throw it in the back at the back of the window, because people will know that, we're talking to everybody when and where and how possible. In leadership, hey, let's do the right thing because it's the right thing for the vast majority of people. Let's not impose our own personal bias. That's important, and hopefully we all want that. Yeah. Well, that was me rambling. So we got about, I'd say about 40 seconds. Anybody want to squeeze in a quick question? If not, apforapex.com. We're going to publish all these questions. And if you like them, you can share them. Election day is November 4th. And I would be honored if you voted for me. Again, not trying to convince you. But I want, hopefully we can have more time to meet each other. I'm going to be out in the town on Saturday. I'll be at the Oktoberfest, but early in the morning, I'm going to hit some neighborhoods. Yeah, I love doing these. Next Thursday and the following Thursday, all the way to the 30th at 5:30. And we're probably going to publish the link in a more super blasted way. So I thank everybody that hung out. It's been awesome. If you're going to watch this later, thanks for tuning in. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon.